You are most welcome. I am still your teacher Ospat Nwari, and I will welcoming you to yet another episode where we are going to expound more on the another stage of respiration, which is the second after glycolysis, and that is none other than Krebs Cycle. Now, Krebs Cycle has got some few things that I would like us first to get to know about it. And what are those? Number one, I want to talk about, like we first broke down the one for glycolysis. I don't know if you still remember glycolysis. We find it very well because of by breaking down the word glycolysis. Now, I don't think here we are going to break down this word called Krebs Cycle. We may not to break it down, yeah, because I think it looks a short one. It's a short one. However, this Krebs Cycle, as you make some further reading, we are going to find out that it is having other different names. And what are those different names? Number one, of course, we begin with this one here. This is also called, before we go into also called, the Krebs Cycle is called Krebs Cycle. That is the first name. But it is, apart from the Krebs Cycle, it's also called Citric Acid Cycle. It is called Citric Acid Cycle. It is also called, apart from Citric Acid Cycle, it's also called tricarboxylic. It's also called tricarboxylic acid cycle. It's also called tricarboxylic acid cycle. That's also its name. Now the question is, why is this cycle called like that? Number one, it is called the Krebs Cycle, and I want you to take note of my name, of the way I've written this name. Some people write this name and they put an apostrophe in the middle here. That's not correct. It's just like when you're writing Christ's body. When you're writing Christ's, you don't put an apostrophe before S, because Christ ends with S. So likewise, even here, Krebs Cycle is what was called Krebs Cycle because of, the scientist who discovered this cycle as one of the key stages in respiration was called Hans Krebs. So the discoverer or the inventor, the scientist after which this cycle was named, the inventor was called Krebs. He actually was called Hans Krebs. So it is from this name where we get the Krebs Cycle. And then it is also called Citric Acid Cycle. Why? Because in this cycle, we are saying the first product of this cycle is called citric acid. It's called citric acid. Because citric acid is the first product, that's why it is also called, the cycle is named after the first product. Just like the way, for those who have watched videos about photosynthesis, in photosynthesis we have got plants we call C4 plants. You're going to find that those plants are called C4 plants because during that cycle, in those plants undergo a given cycle where the first product is called what? Is a 4-carbon molecule. Likewise, there are those which are called C3 plants. Those which have PGA as the first stable product. So you find that the C3 plants are called so because they undergo a cycle which is known as Calvin cycle. But we are saying in that cycle, the first stable product that is formed is having 3 carbons, and that's how we get the C3. So likewise here, that's what we are also basing. We are also basing on something which is like that to name citric acid cycle. Now, then what about tricarboxylic acid? Yeah, carboxylic acids, carboxylic acids, they have a group, they have this group on them, this group within them. So we are saying why it is called tricarboxylic cycle. Still, this name rotates on the first product. And what is that? We are saying this first product, the first product is citric acid. And because this first product has 3 carboxyl group, the first product, that is citric acid, when you go to its chemistry and its structure and so on, you are going to find that citric acid has 3 carboxyl groups. This 3 is what is referring to for the tri. So it has 3 carboxyl groups. 3 carboxyl groups are like that. So because it has the 3 carboxyl groups, that's why we can also refer to it as tricarboxylic acid cycle. So as you're doing some reading in textbooks and so on and so forth, and you find any of these names, they are referring to the same thing. Now we have seen this Krebs cycle is a cycle which is undergone by molecule, especially by pyruvate from glycolysis, especially when oxygen is present. So another key thing that as we are starting, something very important for us to note is that this cycle, for it to take place, it requires the prerequisite is that it requires oxygen. It requires oxygen to be present for it to occur. It's a prerequisite. And then, of course, as we go on, we are going to find out the importance of this oxygen. What is the importance of this oxygen? What is this oxygen? Why is oxygen very important as far as respiration is concerned? We are going to find it has a very important role, that when it is not there, something is in one way or the other hindered. Now, another thing we are saying is that, of course, like from what we just talked about under glycolysis, that we said in the previous video, we said that pyruvate, when oxygen is present, moves from the cytoplasm, it crosses over and comes into the matrix of the mitochondria. So it means this one occurs, this cycle occurs within the mitochondrion matrix. Remember, from the beginning we said the 3 stages, each one has where it occurs. Those who watched that first video, we saw that the glycolysis was taking place in cytoplasm. Now the Krebs cycle will take place in the matrix of the mitochondria. And then the third step, which we are going to look at also later, called the electron transport chain, occurs in the inner membrane of the mitochondria. Now, having seen this, we are saying that now when this pyruvate, you see, which is found where? Which is found in the cytoplasm. After crossing these 2 membranes, maybe these are the 2 membranes of the what? These are the 2 membranes of the mitochondria. These are the membranes of the mitochondria. Now after this pyruvate has crossed and it has come into the matrix here. It has come into this matrix. It has come into this matrix of the mitochondria. We are saying before it can enter into this cycle, before this pyruvate can actually come into the real cycle, what we actually exactly call the real cycle, the real Krebs cycle, this pyruvate has to first undergo some modification. Why? Because we are saying, looking at the nature of pyruvate, the way it is, chemically, it is unable to penetrate and become part of the Krebs cycle when it is just plainly the way it is here as pyruvate. So when this pyruvate comes into this matrix of the mitochondria, after it has come into this matrix of the mitochondria, of course, the cycle, for example, if this is a cycle, here this is the Krebs cycle. The Krebs cycle, it is there. We are saying this pyruvate which has come here, this pyruvate you see, it first undergoes some modification. It first undergoes some modification into a given molecule. and this given molecule is now what exactly comes and enters into the Krebs cycle. What am I saying? I have said that pyruvate, yes, we have seen it cross after when oxygen is present. It is able to cross from the cytoplasm. It crosses the membrane of the mitochondria and it comes into the matrix of the mitochondria. Yes, that is true. But we are saying when it comes to the matrix of the mitochondria, the way it is, when it is just like this, it is chemically, we are saying it cannot be able to penetrate, it cannot be able, in this format, it cannot easily come and become part of the cycle. And therefore, we are saying this pyruvate must undergo some modification so it can be fit to enter into the Krebs cycle. Now, that modification is what we actually refer to as a link reaction. That means the pyruvate undergoes what we call a link reaction so it can be modified, so it can be fit to enter into the Krebs cycle. So, how is that link reaction? Let us meet in the next episode. May God bless you.